What is up, everyone? I'm Steve, and these are the Memoirs of an Indonesian American, a show that shares experiences, tips, and tools that have shaped friends of mine to become who they are today. I hope that there's something here that you can relate to, whether you're Indonesian or not. In this group chat episode, I'll be sitting around the table with George, Jonathan, and Melody in understanding a public school perspective on being an Indonesian American, as well as a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. We will talk about the different aspects of our lives, friend groups coming together, our cultural values being made apparent, and on top of that, having a spiritual foundation keeping us all connected. We also talk tips for being well-rounded individuals, important tools or daily necessities, and our favorite quotes and Bible verses to get you through life. Let's have a listen. All right, everyone. I'm here with the Rikvxbes, George, Jonathan, and Melody, all in different stages of their life, but all here to answer this question as siblings, which is how much of your Indonesian culture and background plays a part in your American life? Melody, we'll start with you.
Hey, I'm Melody, and I'm in 7th grade, and I feel like my Indonesian life plays a part in my school life the most, because I feel like I see them as two whole lives, like their own lives, like my school life and my Indonesian / church and family life. And I think that it's really confusing at times, especially when I'm at school with my American friends. And I also have like Indonesian friends from like church that also go to the same school. And I feel like when both my friend groups, like my American friend group and my Indonesian friend group, when I'm with both of them and they both like see each other and talk to each other, I just see it as it being really weird, because I don't know, I feel like I fit more into the Indonesian group when those scenarios happen, because mainly because I look like them, which is a weird thing to say, but yeah, it's because I look like them, and I feel like I fit more with them than my American friends. And I feel like since my American friends also hang out with each other a lot more, that's like I'm not really a part of their group, but at the same time I am. Like, I'm only a part of their group when I'm at school. So I don't know if it's like an actual friend thing or if it's just like I'm with them just because I'm at school, or just because I think I'm friends with them. But I don't know if it's actually two whole different lives, because it's just really confusing whether I want to be an American more or if I want to be Indonesian more, because I feel like both are amazing, but like at the same time I can't really have both, because either one that I like would say I quote unquote like choose, I'm always gonna have to lean more to one than the other. And I feel like that's just really hard, because I feel like I'm not gonna be actual friends with like one group than I am with the other. And so yeah.
And this is something you're realizing in 7th grade, which is fairly young, right, in a stage of life. Whereas as you get older, it might look a little different, and Jonathan and George can touch on that a little bit more. But I did want to ask you also, does it feel like you're the only connection point if those two different groups happen to come together?
Honestly, yeah, because I feel like I personally see it as I'm kind of a different person. Even though I feel like I act the same, I feel like it's a whole different experience when I'm with both of the groups of people. Like, I don't know, it just gives off a whole different vibe, because I feel more comfortable with the Indonesians, I would say, but at the same time I'm super like natural and like fun and happy around the American friend group. And I don't know if that's just because I'm trying to put on like a person that is like happy, or if I'm genuinely just like whatever around my Indo friends. And I don't know like which one I actually am, because I feel like both come naturally to me. So it's just really hard to think about. And like if I wasn't in the picture, I don't think that both friends would like even hang out with each other and know each other. So it's just really weird.
But considering that you have a connection with both sides, it's really fun to see when they both connect on their own, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, how do they all get along? Because I thought I was the only one to get along with either side.
Yeah.
But it's really just like they just haven't met each other, you know?
Yeah.
And that could be the same about different age groups too.
Yeah, because my Indo friends are like all like older by a year or something, and then all my American friends are, you know, the same age as me when I'm at school. And I think it's really funny to watch them like talk or hang out with each other, because like my friends would always like make fun of each other for no reason, even though they're not that close. It's just really nice to see like, well, like both sides still do accept each other, even if I'm not like forcing them to or like telling them that they should. Like they just naturally talk to each other. And I think that's really nice to have, especially like with my situation, being Indo-American. And it's just like, I'm really grateful for that. But there are times where I'm like, this is super awkward. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now.
Right. No, even myself, I feel like personally there are times where I've had to not kind of choose a side, but I am on another side. And then I'm looking at the other side and I'm thinking, oh man, I don't know how to kind of please both, right? Whether that's from an Indonesian side or my American side, because there are often times like I'm in school mode, right? And sometimes I do relate to people that aren't Indonesian, you know what I mean? But I think it's super cool when they do come together. I think that's really special. And you guys do come from quote unquote different worlds, but both of those sub-communities do form one community because you guys still go to the same school. Yeah. Essentially. What about students that go, or kids that go to other schools? How do you feel about that? Like if you met Indonesian friends from other schools?
Oh.
Do you feel like you connect with them too? As well as, you know, an Indonesian, probably not your best friends, but just on an acquaintance level. Do you feel like there's some kind of connection? And what do you think?
That's a really interesting question, because I feel like even though I still feel closer to my Indo friends, we still go to the same school, obviously. I feel like I wouldn't feel as comfortable around other Indos that go to different schools, because I feel like even though like there's so much like difference between my Indo school friends, like I'm still way closer to them, and like there's so much more that they understand, and like people, if I'm telling a story, they'll know who I'm talking about. That's really nice. But then if I'm talking to like a other random Indo person from a different school, it's just gonna be super awkward, because like I'll be like, oh, there's this one time, oh wait, you know, you don't know the person.
Right.
So yeah.
Interesting. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Melody, for sharing. And now let's turn to Jonathan, and I'll let him introduce himself and talk a little bit about how his Indonesian culture plays a part into his American life.
Yeah, hey, what's up, guys? My name is Jonathan. I'm inside 10th grade in the high school. And where do I start? I don't know where to start.
I guess you can work off of Melodies in where you felt like you either had a really good or weird experience in elementary, but then in high school, does it look any different? Do you feel different? Have you been able to get both sides, or have they just merged into one, where your Indonesian and American culture is actually just one culture? And
I feel like a big part of me growing up is like all these cultural values that's been instilled in me. It's kind of affected my personality, and it's kind of affected the way I've interacted with others. Now, of course, I'm an online student, so I don't have that interaction that I would have if I was going to going into in-person school like Melody is, right?
Yeah.
So, like, where am I going to go with this?
Yeah, and you're just online because of COVID, right? You haven't always been online.
Yeah.
And what grade are you in? You said a sophomore?
Yeah.
Now, how was it your first year? Because it was a change of scenery. Did you feel like you could keep going with did you feel like how Melody felt? Or did you feel a different way?
In terms of like what?
2 separate lives, or it was one life at school?
I think like I can go off of like my experiences during extracurricular activities. I can say that I would say I'm myself in both environments when they're completely separated. Like if I'm completely with my friends but not with like my family or like Indonesian community at all, then I could be myself fully, right? But if I'm with like just my family or just with the Indo community, I can be myself fully. But I think when the two worlds kind of come together, that's when like the line between them kind of becomes like muddy and like and I think it's just kind of weird just to be around both communities at the same time. Like you don't know if you want to be with this one or this one because you're close with both of them.
Yeah, you're in both, and you don't want to feel like you have to hurt anyone's feelings, but you still feel it's kind of weird when they converge.
It's very strange. You know?
Yeah. Can you give an example maybe where it's happened? Where maybe your Indonesian friends and American friends kind of came together, or you experienced both at the same time?
Okay, so I remember this one time. I have a Korean friend. He came to Vespers one time, and I think that was like really strange. Not because I dislike him or I dislike I wouldn't say outsiders. Like people that are normally part of the Indonesian group going to Indonesian events like Vespers, right?
Right.
And it was just a weird experience, kind of just trying to be that bridge. Because, to be honest, I'm not the type of person to be the bridge between like two people or two worlds. So it was just kind of weird.
It was different. But, I remember that. And I thought he enjoyed himself, even though he didn't really kind of include himself fully. But, of course, the first time you'd feel shy. But I thought, he had a few friends, right, that he already knew.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was just jumping in and he only knew you.
Yeah.
Right? Cool, yeah, no, I totally agree. But it was cool having him around, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
And then did you kind of integrate throughout the, evening, throughout the whole Vespers? Did you feel like he actually kind of fit in a little bit?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Because, of course he has like a few friends that know him and they weren't like excluding him in anything. Like,
yeah.
I would say we were pretty inclusive,
Yeah. Also, if you're listening to this, shout out to you.
Yeah. You know who you are.
You know who you are. Thanks for being there. All right, cool. Thanks, Jonathan. Welcome back, everyone. We just heard from Melody in her elementary school experience, Jonathan in his high school, and now George, currently in university, can share a little bit about what life has been like and how his Indonesian culture has played into his American life. George?
All right, yeah, so what's up, guys? My name's George, and I am a freshman in college. And I guess where I could start is just talking about, just how in college I've experienced or kind of just realized how much the Indo culture and community has really shaped me and how much I really value it now that I don't really have it at Michigan. And because, okay, so I guess just to backtrack, I joined this program called the Health Science Scholars Program. And Michigan is all about building community, like all about, finding your community, because there's like even scientific research that community actually helps people's grades increase. Like if you're part of a community, your grades are actually higher than people who are not part of a community.
Interesting.
So, that's why they're like, always find a community right when you get to college. So the community that I joined was, what I just mentioned, like a health science, people were interested inside medicine and whatever, in public health. And I joined the community, but I realized it wasn't the same as, the Indo community that we have here in Barron Springs. And it didn't really give me that, that homey vibe, like I feel like people in the Indo community here in Barron, I can just kind of just chill with. I can kind of just be myself with. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure why that is, but hearing from Melody and Jonathan, I think it's mostly because, we do come as an Indonesian American from both the Indonesian culture and the American culture, like we're just like that small. We're a minority in the minority of Indonesians, if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Being Indonesian American, and like where else are you gonna find this group of individuals who are exactly like you culturally? Because if you think about it, people are who they are because of their culture and because of basically the environment they're raised in. So like where else are you gonna find that? Sure, you can have different interests, like my health science scholars program. They also have like a first gen program over there, and like sure you can find relations in there and like similarities with a lot of people that are very similar to you there, but there was no real Indonesian culture that I could really relate to. And yeah, it just, even the Seventh-day Adventist youth group there, like it was still different from the youth group that we had here in the Indo Church.
I did want to ask though, was that because the I guess it's through orientation you would join this club or community?
Yeah, so like they just lay out these communities in front of you. You're like,
okay, and you just choose.
Yeah, just apply
because you think that sounds good.
Right.
Okay, so it's not necessarily cultural, or is it? Because it's mostly professional and mostly within a career that you're interested in, or what you are studying.
Yeah, it's mostly just professional and like the career, and there are Indonesian clubs there, but it doesn't have that religious aspect to it now, Like my religious group doesn't have the Indo aspect, and the Indonesian group doesn't have that religious aspect to it. And I don't know, it's just, that's why I think this community of being Indonesian American SDA is very special. It's like, you don't really find that anywhere else. And yeah, I think, like Melody said, you're easy to be yourself around these people because they're the ones that are most like you. They face the same problems as you. They understand what you're going through, and yeah, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to call them family.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And family doesn't have to necessarily look like you or share your last name to feel like family. But it really is easy to be comfortable. And no, I agree. I totally feel that way. Do you two agree? Melody, Jonathan? Totally. Yeah. Cool. Also, let's put an asterisk on George's kind of university experience because we're actually experiencing COVID right now. Right. You're not necessarily in or involved 100% as you would in a normal environment.
Yeah.
So things very well change if things went back to normal and you were actually on campus and you actually saw these groups interact, right? And actually hung out with your professional community, and then you'd notice the differences. Like I was mentioning earlier, right? You do feel the relationship building, not like during those events or occasions, but like the in-betweens of when you get to know someone just by some mannerisms or some preferences, right? For example, like I love Asian food. If someone else likes Asian food, that's so easy to connect, right? Or if like they're super into Panda Express, which I love Panda Express, I'm like, I can connect with you. Let's talk food, and that could be another point where you're really close. And then you find more things to build on. But yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, through this pandemic, we haven't been able to really connect, even though you guys live down the street from us. right? I barely see you guys, and you guys only see me when maybe I walk the dog.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. Thanks for the insight, George.
Yeah, for sure.
That wraps us up for this segment. We'll catch you in the next one. Okay, sweet. So we just heard from the three of you, and now we're going to do more of a roundtable discussion where we can go back and forth. And I wanted to add on the spiritual component. George talked about how we were a Seventh-day Adventist, a Christian denomination. And I wanted to know, can you tell, or when you feel like you can see maybe that your American friends maybe break off into another subculture because of the spiritual component, that they do share the same faith, that they are different? Have you realized that? Melody, what did you feel like it was? Did you see that it was apparent? And how would you describe it?
I feel like I was able to tell. I don't know why. It's just obviously the vibe that they give off. Like there's that certain SDA kid PMC church, Sabbath school vibe that they give off. I'm like, dang, I feel like they're SDA. But like I think it's just the fact how they talk or like how they talk or like present themselves. Like it should just gives off that kid SDA vibe. It's just like I'm not gonna swear at you, but I'll be sassy at times, I don't know if that makes sense at all, but it's just like the way that they talk. It just gives that PG, like very PG vibe. And
you can tell they're smart about, and they're kind of what do they call, withdrawn a little in terms of what they want to say or how they can say things, just because they know what their values are, right? And you guys can connect with them because you know that what the values are, right? So you're like, oh, I totally relate to them, and I can just maybe sometimes you're cringing because you know that like, oh, I know you want to be a certain way, but you're really good about sticking to what your faith is and just who you are as a person and how you've grown up. And Jonathan and George, you felt that way?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, maybe it was the mannerisms as well, like how they carry themselves. They're not super like Melody would say, like rambunctious or they don't like you said, Stephen, like they don't like to, I guess, present themselves as worldly because they have those values. And yeah, it's just something that you as an SDA can really relate to and kind of just subconsciously, feel when they're there. And I don't even know how to put it into words.
Yeah, exactly.
So Melody, young people call it vibe, but then other people would call it an aura or some energy emanating from them that you can just sense like, have I seen you at church one time? and I I've experienced that too, because we would go to you guys' musicals and sports games, and you could just tell. For the ones that we do know that are in sports teams, you're like, they could have acted up a totally different way, or they could been totally different. So cool. And Jonathan, you've experienced that too?
I think that like being an SDA really does help with building that community, like within the bigger overall community, because since you guys already do, like George and Melody both said, like have similar values and beliefs, and I think that's really cool, because like especially around like my age, like between Melody and George's age, it's like really a period of development where like a person tries to find out who they are, and like where they fit in into the world, and I think that's really helpful. Being an SDA and being able to form a community off of your religious beliefs.
Awesome. Good. And I'm hoping, well, I hope, so we are in a small college town, but it is a spiritual college town, right? It's one of the Adventist colleges. And I feel you guys have felt the diversity that stems from there, because some of the students, they have children and they would go on to your school. And you'd know them and you grow up with them, and you feel that interaction, environment, presence, that there's a spiritual focus that is influencing kind of your school, even though it's not a religious school. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's apparent because through different, I mentioned like plays and other extracurriculars, you can tell like some of these students are involved in a lot of things. And do you think that's played a part into your guys's, I know we want to talk about it in the next segment, but does that play a part into being a whole well-rounded individual?
I think that for me, it just gives me some sort of comfort that I'm not the only one going through this thing where I'm an SDA, but being put in a worldly environment, like public school. So it's like, it's kind of comforting that I know I'm not the only one that has to go through these challenges trying to like fit in with these like non-SDA people that our interests and beliefs are in something else.
Right. But you have seen that even though they may not be of your faith, they still can kind of exude that energy, right?
Because you guys that are not SDA.
You felt like, oh man, that's a really great trait to have as a person.
Yeah.
And right? And that's where that spiritual adds on to the just cultural component that you're just like, man, these actually are really great people. And I feel like we all influence each other, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And Jonathan, George?
I mean, I guess it's really nice to have like the SDA friends, because like Melody said, like it's really nice because you don't have to like feel like you have to change yourself and your beliefs to fit in with the others.
Right.
And like going back to the community thing, since there's like a good amount of like SDAs within the school, even though it's a worldly school, it's because there's like so many SDAs in there. Like even like the people who aren't SDA still like notice and like kind of like respect it. You know, like like we're not gonna force you to hang out with us on Friday nights or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's true.
That's cool. But they're not hesitant to include you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I have something to add.
Yeah. What's
Like,
up?
It's more of like the part where I'm like, like about having SDA people in my group. It's like, yes, like it's really comforting, but at the same time, like I don't have that many SDA friends in public school, and I feel like the reason is I don't have anything else to relate to them with. Like the only thing I relate with them is like being SDA, and that's why I feel like I don't have that many SDA friends at school, which is kind of sad, honestly. But at the same time, like it's kind of a loss. So,
But that doesn't necessarily hurt that experience. It's just you feel a little bit separate because now there's a subculture within your subculture.
Yeah.
Yeah. George, any closing thoughts on this segment?
I'm scared I'm gonna make this too broad and we're gonna go into something else. I mean, I was just thinking back on like my experience at college, my fall semester, because I had to return back here by then. But just thinking about like what my spiritual life was like in a secular university, it's really tough if you don't have anybody there, because I did have my youth group, you know, but tying back to like Indonesian SDAs, like there is that cultural component where you just, you know, there's more of that relatability and that, I don't know, support that comes from the Indonesian community that you can't really get from just a Seventh-day Adventist community.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's really unique, and that's something else that sometimes we struggle with, right? So then we have to worry about I don't want to what's it called? I don't want to offend maybe my non-spiritual friends. I don't want to offend my American friends. I don't even want to offend kind of my Indonesian friends if I choose to do or not do anything or hang out with them or not. But interesting. That's really good that you guys are kind of aware and not necessarily against anything that you're not comfortable with, but you're hopefully trying to embrace it, right? And that's what we're all trying to do. And actually, that might be the whole point of this pod, to connect with others on another level, right?
yeah.
Cool. So in this segment, I just wanted to get your guys' insight, as I know that you guys are well-rounded individuals, meaning that mind, body, spirit is all interwoven in your lives, right? You do want to have good grades and you do want to excel academically, but you also take the time to do extracurriculars as well as maintain that spiritual life and finding that balance. So for the listeners out there, do you have any tips, you know, wherever you are in your experience, to continue being well-rounded or becoming a well-rounded individual? What would be your tip? And we'll start with Melody and we'll go around as a round table kind of.
Okay, so I think that this is something people don't really actually talk about a lot. It's knowing your limits and what you can handle and what you can't. And like I had this like talk to myself like a few days ago probably about how I feel like sometimes I'm putting too much on myself, even though I'm in 7th grade, and I feel like there's already a ton of stuff that's already on my plate, and I just feel like I'm expected to add more and more. I feel like I just kind of like got annoyed at myself. Like, why am I allowing myself to keep on making myself more and more stressed?
Yeah.
Like, I want to do all these things, but like I can only do so much at a time, and I feel like that is such a big thing that people need to pay more attention to, because if you don't know your limits, then how do you know when it's too much and when you won't be able to do anything else or do the things that you want to do or things that will help you grow? Like, you won't have time for anything if you don't know how much you want to do at a time.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm doing like a sport each season, and that's really nice because I can just focus on that sport. But then at the same time, I'm doing like academics, which is really kind of stressful, especially now. And then I have like piano and like helping around the house, just like doing other like chores and stuff. And church too, like I have to do, perform sometimes, and that sometimes gets me really like stressed or like fills my head a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes that just makes me not do anything. So the fact that I have so much makes me not do anything. So I end up failing in all of the things. So what's the point in doing them if you're just going to end up procrastinating and not accomplishing anything in the end? So I think just take it little by little. Not little by little, but like know how much you can handle, and then try to see if you can like put something off, but don't keep putting it off, obviously. Like, know where you can like hold something and just evenly distribute it out. Like peanut butter and jelly,
Hold on, you're saying you need to have a 50-50 for PB&J?
Yeah.
Dude.
Once something overpowers the other and you're like, dang, that's not good. And then something's...
No, you just add more because it's imbalanced, right? You just add more to it.
No, but then it's too much and it gets all soggy and disgusting. And you throw it all away.
All right, yeah, let's not have our lives be soggy and disgusting, everyone.
This actually reminds me of this funny quote I found online. It's like, it was about Oreos, right? It's like, you cannot have light without darkness. Like, you can't have the cream without the cookie, It's very, you have to find a balance. Yin yang, panda,
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, but you can. Okay, you know what? No, good quote. Good
Okay.
quote. Good quote.
Is it okay if we go into...
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. Jump into it.
I
was
think
actually... go
this
for
is
it.
This is a really good segue into mine, because something I wanted to talk about is something I would consider to be the opposite of what Melody just talked about, which is taking initiative. And I just think it's important for us to put ourselves out there, even if we feel uncomfortable. That's ultimately that's just gonna make us grow,
Yeah, and those can go hand in hand, because Melody is talking about limiting yourself, but in order to grow, what do you need to do? You still need to take the next steps.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, you were take initiative. Cool, very cool. I like that. And Jonathan, and George, sorry.
Yeah. So I think a big thing about being a well-rounded person is probably having flexibility in your life, because like. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. The dog is eating. He's having dinner, so that's okay. Having flexibility because... Is it because you need to learn how to pivot and react to certain things? Or is it flexibility in knowing that something else might come up?
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. I think flexibility is a big thing because for me, like... I think, this is going to be like a little sneak peek to me and Steve's seventh episode?
Yeah, a later pod.
Yeah, a later podcast. But me being the middle child, I guess, and that made me realize I need to be flexible with what I take in as a person and how I self-identify myself. And, being flexible with your environment, I guess. Making sure that you know how to pick and choose what you want to put in and make you up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think in terms of being a well-rounded person, yeah, flexibility is, yeah.
Yeah, because your experiences shape you, and sometimes you don't get to choose. Maybe in Melody's case, you do get to choose, and you need to hold back a little bit just because you're involved in a lot of things. That's okay, but with Jonathan's tip, we can take those little steps, but and like know that we can and we will to become, the better person, and maybe eventually over time you'll just be like, man, I can do so many things, and I didn't even realize, even though I was just holding on to something rather than letting something go or focusing too hard on one thing. Cool. Thank you, everyone. So in this segment, I'm going to ask these three on their important tools or daily drivers, things to get them through the day, maybe their most important tool that helps them in their success. We'll start with Melody.
So, I love Jetstream pens. So they're pens, obviously, but the thing about them, they don't smudge. Like once you write it, and then you know how your like hand moves when you write, it doesn't smudge, and like that's so. I don't know, it's just so helpful, especially if I'm like taking notes or writing something down. It just doesn't smear, and I hate it when it smudges. So I think that's really nice supply, especially if you want to take notes.
Now, where can you get those? Amazon or Walmart?
I think
Target?
we got where'd you get yours?
Walmart, yeah.
Walmart?
Yeah.
Because I'm left-handed, and you can see how that is bad for you. Because you have to go over. Oh, I hate it.
But
cool.
It just dries super fast, and it's really nice. So.
Good. Jonathan?
I would say, for me, I can't do anything if I'm hungry. Like if I'm hungry, like literally the biggest distraction, it's just gonna be like right there. It's like it's literally a part of me, like like I have to have something sitting inside my stomach. And like I've heard like some of my classmates and like some of my friends even tell me like, oh, sometimes I just skip breakfast. It's just a hassle. I gotta get to school, and I'm just like, how do you do it? Because I don't know. I just can't function without.
Oh no, for sure. Breakfast is really important. It's like, what is it though? What SpongeBob says? The most important meal of the day. Okay, let the record show that I sometimes skip breakfast too, and I just grab a cup of coffee. But I agree, because we need fuel. And, like a car won't start if you don't have gas in it. What are you going to do, wake up and expect to start running without any fuel? Good. All right, everyone. Breakfast. Good tip.
Shout out to moms.
Breakfast. And George?
Yeah, so, let me see. So I have this really bad habit of checking my phone right away in the morning, which I feel like everybody goes through as well, or a lot of people. But so one thing that has helped me kind of combat that, because once I use my phone, I sometimes spend like 20 to 30 minutes on it in the morning, and just a lot of negative stuff on the news first of all, and then like you just feel very unproductive starting out your day. So one way I've learned to combat that is actually using the Bible app, because it has like the Bible verse for each day.
Verse of the day.
Verse of the day. Yeah, that's what. And I put it around like 7:30, so that's like the first notification I see in the morning. And I just make sure, it just starts me off on a good spiritual footing.
Yeah.
It's my spiritual breakfast.
True that.
Yeah.
True that.
Yeah,
That's really good.
So that's what helps me a lot, because, first of all, it combats, my academic improductivity. But at the same time, it also feeds me spiritually.
Yeah.
And, hit two birds with one stone. So,
yeah. And it could be a mood booster. And for those who may not be spiritual out there, maybe it's your favorite quote. Maybe it's a quote of the day.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
Or word of the day, or something to get you going in the morning. Awesome. So in this last segment, I just wanted to ask these three what their favorite quote or Bible verse is, and we'll start with Melody.
So, the quote is, it matters not it matters not what you've done, but what you do with what you've done for others. Noah Centineo. You know, you can figure it out. I don't know either. He probably doesn't know too. So.
All right, self-explanatory quote. Everyone,
Yeah.
look it up. Jonathan.
Okay, so my favorite quote came from the movie Spider-Man: Homecoming, and it's basically just the part of the movie where like Peter Parker tells Tony Stark that, "Oh, please don't take the suit away. I'm nothing without the suit." And then Tony tells him that if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. And I just think, even though it's a movie quote, it just kind of just stuck around with me because, you know, if you didn't have the things that you had, like, would you still be, a significant person? Would you be the same? You know, what's so special about you? So
True that, man. That hits hard. True that. And George?
Yeah, so I want to share a Bible verse, and mine was Proverbs 16, verse 9. And it's, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And I think this verse really spoke to me, especially going into college, because, I was still trying to figure out what I want to do. And, a lot of people in their lives, they go through the idea like, oh man, Jesus, God will, direct my steps. He's gonna, have everything figured out for me in the end. But sometimes we forget that we kind of have to plan our way ourselves, and through that process, along the path, he'll show us which way we should go. It's not like, it's either we plan our way or he shows us. It's a mix of both, and it's the working together that helps us reach our final destination. And I think that's something that's going to stick with me for the next 4 years or even for the rest of my life. So, yeah.
True that. Inspiring. Well, thank you, you three. It's been a privilege, and it's. I think this group chat has been a really awesome one, and I hope the listeners really enjoyed it. For now, that ends the pod.
Thanks for having us, Steven.
Bye. Thank
All
you.
right,
Peace.
let's hop to the next one.